My girlfriend moved to London behind my back, and I found out from her boss at a party. You know that feeling when your stomach drops so hard it hurts? I was at my girlfriend Victoria's Christmas party with a beer in my hand when her boss walked over grinning like he had news to share. Victoria looked amazing in a red dress near the bar, and after 2 years together, I was thinking about asking her to move in with me soon. Then Graham raised his glass and said, "Victoria, congratulations on the promotion. London is lucky to have you." I honestly thought I heard him wrong. London? Promotion? I looked at Victoria, waiting for her to explain it. She didn't. Her smile slipped for a second, then she forced it back. Graham said the relocation package was incredible, that they were covering her apartment, moving costs, even a bonus. Then he asked when she flew out. Victoria said, "February 15th, fast, like she'd practiced it." I just stood there while people around us smiled and nodded. Then Graham said, "Director of European Operations at 28 is huge." Director. She'd been an analyst for years. A coworker touched my arm and said, "You must be proud." I said yeah because I didn't know what else to say. Victoria would not look at me. She kept laughing and taking congratulations while I stood there hearing pieces of a future she had built without me. One coworker asked if I'd move later. Victoria answered before I could. "We're still figuring things out." That was the first time she'd said a word to me about any of it. On the drive home, Christmas songs played. I finally said, "So, London." She kept looking out the window and said, "I was going to tell you." I asked when. She said soon. I asked how soon, because your boss seems to know the date, the title, and the apartment package, and I found out standing there like a stranger. She got quiet, then said this was huge for her career. I said, "You already have the details." She said we could do long distance. Maybe I'd visit. Maybe we'd make it work. Every answer sounded like something she'd planned alone. I asked how long she'd known. She said a few weeks, and I knew she was lying. That weekend, she went to her sister's house, and I did something I never thought I'd do. We shared a laptop, and I opened her email. The first thing I found was a job application from September, then interview dates, then reference requests. The official offer letter was dated November 2nd. She had accepted it weeks ago. There were moving checklists, visa paperwork, apartment listings, and a flight confirmation for January 28th, not February 15th like she told her boss. She had a signed lease. She had a draft resignation letter. She had everything. Then I found the emails that hurt more than the job. One to a friend said she couldn't wait to start fresh somewhere people actually thought bigger. Another said she was tired of this small town life. Then I found one that said, "Matt's sweet, but he's not ambitious enough for where I'm going." I read that line 3 times. Not ambitious enough. I was 26 and managing 12 people. I was the one looking at apartments for us. Then I found the worst message, one she sent to her sister. It said, "I know I should tell Matt, but part of me wants to wait until everything is locked in. It'll be easier once it's real." By Sunday night, I had printed everything. Offer letter, flight receipt, lease, her draft resignation, the emails. When she walked in, she smiled and said, "Hey babe, how was your weekend?" Then she saw the table. Her purse slipped off her shoulder and hit the floor. I held up the lease and said, "Is this the part where we're still figuring things out?" She went pale. She said my name once. Quiet. I asked if she wanted to start with the September applications, the November offer, or the January flight she never planned to tell me about. She took one step forward and said she could explain. I said, "Then explain the signed lease. Explain the resignation letter. Explain telling people I'm not ambitious enough while I was planning a future with you." She started crying then, but it felt late. She said she didn't know how to tell me. She said she was scared. She said she thought if she waited until everything was final, the conversation would be easier. I asked if the plan was to tell me before she left or after she landed. She said it wasn't like that. I slid the email to her sister across the table and said, "It is exactly like that." She looked down at it and didn't say a word. I asked one last question. Was there ever a version of this where I mattered? She opened her mouth, closed it, and stared at the floor. That was enough for me. I told her to pack what she needed tonight and call her sister if she needed help with the rest. She stood there crying for another second, then walked to the bedroom. I heard drawers opening, hangers scraping, and the zipper on her suitcase. When she came back out with her bag, I stepped away from the door and let her pass. Now her sister is saying I was cold for making her leave. Was I wrong?